Good evening, my name is Charlinda Watson. On today's session, I will focus on teenagers' view of sex. Therefore, I have certain questions I want to share my point on. So the first one is, what are my thoughts on teenagers having sex? Personally, I do not agree with teenagers having sex because today's society portrays sex to be very important, but yet confusing. And with teenagers experiencing sex, they focus less on essential things that should be important. Another question is how I define sex. I define sex as an emotional, physical activity that creates a bond or some form of enjoyment. The third question asks, is oral sex sex? To me, I think it is not sex because it is not like an intercourse or they feel pain or anything, so therefore I genuinely think it is not sex. The fourth question asks, what age is best to wait until engaging any sexual activity and why? And does my answer depend on gender? I think one should engage in sexual activity around the age of 20 because by then they will already think up twice about their future and the person they are willing to settle down with. And my answer doesn't depend on gender. It could go either way. Another question asks, what are my thoughts of teen sexting? I genuinely think it is ignorant of teens to conduct such act because they're affecting one's future, and some of the possible consequences are it could hinder a teen from getting to a good school or could hinder a teen from getting a perfect job. Another question asks, what do I consider porn? Porn to me is performing sexual explicit act with the intention of being recorded. Some of the effects on teenagers, both boys and girls, think it is okay since it's public on the internet, free of access. They are willing to even perform or conduct these acts with the intention of being recorded, without even thinking about the possible consequences they could face. Another question asks, if I have a child one day, what will my stance be on porn? I'll talk about sex with my child because that's my responsibility to tell my child what happens when one has sex. But me showing a child on a whole, porn doesn't really define the criteria of me defining my stance of porn. Or even if my child decides to go on his or her own to watch it, I will definitely have a problem because in no form or shape should my child think something is okay when it's definitely not. With my intention, I rather my child hear my side of story towards how I feel about porn. Another question that relates to the question that I just answered asks, if I don't want my child to look at porn, how do I plan on stopping them? As I stated earlier, porn is pretty much everywhere, so it will take a lot of me to explain to my child not to watch porn, but I will also explain how the victims felt each day when people on a whole watch porn, so my child could have an understanding why I care so much for them not to watch porn. Because one less person watch porn decrease the number of making the victim in these situations happy. I'll also explain that if they are not around 20 or older, they cannot watch porn. That's pretty much how I would stop them from watching porn. And the last and final question asks, what would you rather your child watching, violence or porn, and why? Well, to me, even though I don't like the idea of porn, I'd rather them to watch porn because if accident or anything ever to happen, it's not an easy process to go through, but it's worth it than violence because I feel like sex is natural. So therefore, I think them watching porn, they could have an idea of how a human being could come into this world. But for them to watch violence, I think children practice what they learn. And by watching violence, they will think it is okay when it's not. So I genuinely think I would rather them watching porn because at the end of the day, it's my safety to protect them. And with them watching violence, it's a really hard of me to explain like this is not okay. But with sex, I can understand it's natural. At some point they're going to learn about this or even practice this in the future, but like violence, I feel like it's pretty much overboard. So pretty much those were my final thoughts on teenagers and sex. Thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for the second one.